Peter Baelish, known as Littlefinger, never ruled from the Iron Throne, never led a great army, and never inherited a powerful name. Yet across the seasons of Game of Thrones, he consistently influenced the direction of the realm more than many crowned rulers. His power did not come from legitimacy or force. It came from positioning himself at the intersections of money, information, and political instability. Understanding how Littlefinger controlled Westeros without a crown requires examining what roles he occupied, what actions he took, and how those actions directly altered the balance of power in the Seven Kingdoms. Littlefinger's background is essential to understanding his methods. He was born to a minor house from the Fingers, a poor and politically insignificant region. Unlike most highborn characters, he had no lands of value, no army, and no influential alliances by birth. His early life placed him among nobles far above his station, including the Tully family, where he developed a fixation on Catelyn Stark. When Brandon Stark nearly killed him in a duel, it reinforced a lesson that shaped his entire strategy. Physical strength, honor, and lineage would never work in his favor. From that point forward, Littlefinger pursued influence through systems rather than strength. His appointment as Master of Coin under King Robert Baratheon gave him his first major structural advantage. This role allowed him to oversee the finances of the Iron Throne, a position that outwardly appeared administrative but was in reality deeply political. Under Littlefinger's management, the crown fell heavily into debt, particularly to the Lannisters and the Iron Bank of Braavos. While this debt is often criticized by viewers, it served a strategic purpose. By entangling the monarchy in financial obligations that only he fully understood, Littlefinger made himself difficult to replace. The small council depended on him not because he was trusted, but because no one else knew how to untangle the system he had built. Littlefinger's control was also rooted in information management. He owned and operated multiple brothels across King's Landing, which functioned as informal intelligence hubs. Through them, he gathered knowledge about nobles, guards, and council members. This was not speculation. The series repeatedly shows Littlefinger knowing sensitive information before others do, including Cersei's secrets, Ned Stark's intentions, and the tensions within the royal court. Unlike Varys, who sought stability for the realm, Littlefinger used information selectively to destabilize situations in ways that benefited him personally. One of Littlefinger's most consequential actions was his role in the death of Jon Arryn. Through Lisa Arryn, whom he manipulated emotionally, Littlefinger orchestrated Jon Arryn's poisoning and framed the Lannisters. This single act set off the chain of events that led to Robert Baratheon traveling north, Ned Stark becoming Hand of the King, and the eventual collapse of peace in Westeros. Importantly, Littlefinger was not motivated by ideology or loyalty. He acted to remove a stabilizing figure from power, creating uncertainty that he could exploit. His betrayal of Ned Stark further illustrates how Littlefinger exercised control without authority. Ned represented law, honor, and transparency, values incompatible with Littlefinger's survival. When Ned attempted to remove Joffrey from the throne legally, Littlefinger pretended to support him while secretly aligning with the Lannisters. By switching sides at the decisive moment, Littlefinger ensured Ned's arrest and later execution. This act directly destabilized the realm, triggering open war between the great houses. While others fought, Littlefinger positioned himself to benefit from the aftermath. During the War of the Five Kings, Littlefinger avoided direct involvement in combat, which preserved his flexibility. Instead, he acted as a negotiator and intermediary. His successful brokering of the alliance between the Lannisters and the Tyrells was a turning point in the war. That alliance led directly to the Lannister victory at the Battle of the Blackwater. As a reward, Littlefinger was granted Harrenhal and elevated to Lord Paramount of the Riverlands. This was a critical development, For the first time, he gained a major title not through inheritance, but through usefulness. Littlefinger's marriage to Lisa Arryn expanded his influence even further. Through her, he gained control of the Vale, one of the few regions untouched by war. Although Lisa technically ruled, her decisions were heavily influenced by Littlefinger. This arrangement allowed him to command resources and political leverage without public accountability. The Vale's neutrality was not accidental. It was a strategic reserve that Littlefinger intended to deploy when conditions favored him. His involvement in Sansa Stark's escape from King's Landing demonstrates both his strategic insight and his long-term planning. By removing Sansa from the capital, Littlefinger deprived the Lannisters of a valuable hostage while positioning himself as her protector. Later, by marrying her into House Bolton, he attempted to gain influence over the North. This move ultimately failed, but it was consistent with his broader strategy: use legal structures and personal relationships to gain indirect control over territories. Littlefinger's power was sustained by his ability to remain underestimated. He was rarely seen as the primary threat because he did not present himself as a contender for the throne. Kings and queens focused on visible rivals, armies, and claimants. Littlefinger operated beneath that level, influencing outcomes without drawing attention. His survival depended on being perceived as useful rather than dangerous. However, Littlefinger's control had limits. His entire approach relied on fragmented knowledge and the inability of others to see the full pattern of his actions. The return of Bran Stark as the three-eyed raven fundamentally changed that equation. Bran's ability to access past events exposed Littlefinger's involvement in Jon Arryn's death and his betrayal of Ned Stark. For the first time, Littlefinger faced an opponent who could not be deceived, manipulated, or misled. His execution in Winterfell was not sudden when viewed through this lens. It was the point at which his methods ceased to function. Sansa Stark, having learned from Littlefinger's example, recognized his tactics and turned them against him. Without secrecy, without misinformation, and without chaos to hide behind, Littlefinger had no remaining leverage. His downfall was the result of exposure, not miscalculation. In factual terms, Littlefinger controlled Westeros without a crown by embedding himself within its systems rather than ruling above them. He manipulated finances, exploited information networks, and destabilized power structures to create opportunities for advancement. He did not seek the throne because the throne was visible, fragile, and contested. Instead, he sought influence that could not be easily challenged. Littlefinger's story is not one of hidden heroism or misunderstood genius. It is a case study in indirect power. He demonstrates how political systems can be manipulated by those who understand their weaknesses. In a world obsessed with lineage and conquest, Littlefinger proved that control does not require a crown, only access, patience, and the willingness to let others destroy each other. For much of Game of Thrones, that strategy worked. And that is precisely what made Peter Baelish one of the most dangerous men in Westeros. And that brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we will see you in the next one.